Okay, welcome to the podcast, kiddos. It's the Paul Pate podcast, and we've got Ken Lamug in the pod cave. Welcome, Ken.
What's up in the hizzy?
Hey, what's going on?
So the one that I'm writing on is kind of like try to motivate yourself for, the coming year, since it's 2016 now.
Yeah.
And, a lot of artists, kind of like you and me, like what we're talking about, is we kind of struggle with, we have certain expectations. We have to have these certain projects done by a certain time, and when we don't meet it, a lot of artists, at least the ones that I know, you get bogged down, you're disappointed with yourself, and you kind of stop moving.
Yeah.
And it's just a balance of having that reality check.
Right.
So, we have this expectation now in society where everybody expects to be an overnight success.
Right.
I was writing it in my post, when I was a kid, I was like, oh man, by the time I'm in my 20s, I'll be rich and famous, So it's one of those things where, you put the pressure on yourself, and if you don't meet it, all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm such a loser.
Yeah.
Nobody's calling me to do work, this and that, and all that kind of things. But, you have to, and we try to compare ourselves to a lot of people who are already successful, but we don't realize that for them to get to that level, they've had all these failures and all these challenges, and we never really hear that.
Right. Right.
So one of the videos that I watch, you should look this up too. It's on YouTube, and it's by Adam Westbrook. It's called The Long Game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you've seen it. There's part 1 and part 2, and he talks about all these great successes in history,
right,
and how we perceive like Leonardo da Vinci, all these guys, Einstein,
right,
and we think of them as these greats in our history.
Right.
But then they've actually had insane amount of failures throughout their lifetime.
Right. And
we think, they've been successful at a young age, but in reality, they've reached their peak of success. They're already like in their 40s, 50s, and so on.
Right.
Yeah. But today we expect we have to be successful by the time we hit 20, or because that's what we see on TV all the time.
Right.
So we kind of have this set of expectation, and it makes it tough.
I find myself comparing myself to you, and being like 20 pages in a weekend. What? You did 20 pages in a weekend?
Yes, it's one of the that's why I think I put that pressure on myself, because I have so much to make up for. I started like when I kind of like you, when we were kids, we liked to draw and create stories and things like that. But then there's this huge 20-year plus gap where I didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yep.
And then now I'm like, oh man, I got the fire again. Now I have all these years to make. I didn't go to art school. Like a lot of people go to art school and then they graduate and then they go, they find a job, publishing and all this stuff. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I feel like, oh man, I need to up my game a little bit here, and that's what we have. It's our time. That's kind of like the only bullet we have in this game right now is the time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, hey, I wanted to tell you something also that I'm really excited about. There's an artist named Steven Silver. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
You know of him?
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
I think he's a character designer for.
Okay.
He did Kim Possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Nickelodeon, but I think he's done a lot of stuff. Anyway, so he's got this deal. I think you can look him up at silvertunes.com or Steven Silver Art Academy, something like that. Anyway, he's got a one-on-one mentorship. So I'm going to get like a half hour. He's going to look at my portfolio.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that should be fun. I'm pretty excited.
Cool. Are you going to record it?
I don't know.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Even if you don't post it online, just record it and just have it there.
Oh yeah, I could do that. Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I'll see what he has to say about it.
I think I'm just terrified of like portfolio reviews.
Oh, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
But
I've had it before with art directors and things like that.
Yeah.
And they're pretty informative, and they're not like, especially the professional art directors and artists, they know how to break it to you, where
yeah.
you're your dreams are not crushed.
Right. I mean, this guy he's a real good. He's real enthusiastic. On his video blog, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he's super positive and motivational. So he has a video series called Monday Morning Art Talks.
Okay.
And I really like those. And so he had this deal where he's offering a half hour or an hour, to look at your stuff. And I was like, oh, I'll do that. So
yeah.
I'm
cool.
gonna try it out. It's just like not this coming week, but the next week.
Okay.
So I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm also terrified.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, I've seen your work, and I think probably because I know you're talking about, having more time to work on your animation. Mm-hmm. Probably cutting down, what will help you cut down on your production time is probably just not using Flash right now, because I think you're using Flash right now.
Yeah.
And I think, because I've worked with Flash, and I know how long it takes to animate things. And I think if you just switch to a different tool, you'll at least double, to make things animate.
Oh, really?
You'll just speed it up, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that way you can, just for example, making somebody talk.
Yeah.
It would be all built in. I forgot the name of the application right now, but basically
Boom,
you
boom.
draw. Yeah, it could be that. You draw the mouth, the shape of the mouth saying different letters, and I think it auto detects the voiceover, and it moves the mouth, the drawing on the mouth based on what they're saying.
Wow.
And that right there, you don't have the lip syncing part. Probably takes you a while to do.
Oh, that's that's one of the most difficult things about it.
Yeah, and that right there would cut a ton of time. So just something to think about. But just based on my experience animating with Flash, I'm like, man, that's a lot of time doing those kinds of animation. And in a way, Flash could limit you, unless you're doing it frame by frame. Right. You're kind of limited to the motion and things like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I'm the thing about it is what you're talking about is over the last few years I've really cranked it up. I'm really dedicating a lot of time and into this, and I want to if now's like you said, now's our bullet, now's the chance to if I'm going to do something, it's going to be now.
Yep.
Exactly. But I'm not sure where this is going either. So,
right.
I mean, because you can't make a living doing little 12-page comic books or these short films. But
yeah, it's tough.
So I don't know. I mean, it's just a hobby is good too. But we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Where do you see your future headed with this?
And that's why I'm kind of trying to figure out right now. I have different projects going on. Like I told you, I did the American Bison, so which was kind of cool because I was able to put out 2 short comics, before the end of the year. We've got the Monstrous comics that's gonna pretty much launch next year. And then there's going to be a few more of those. We're probably going to do a series because the other ones were individual one-shot stories.
Right.
So the next one will be a continuous storyline. So that should be cool. I got a couple of picture books going on. That's going to be launched next year. So, and I'm trying to work on my own stories basically for picture books. And I have the comic book too. So I kind of have almost 3 different comics that I want to work on. And I just did the Talbot Toluca webcomic.
Right.
So I put that up online, and just in the last couple of weeks, I think it already hit 4,000 views on it.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
I think I got maybe 75 subscribes, which is not a lot, but it's a good start. It's one of those things that you got to think of it long term, I guess.
Yeah, Keith Knight, I heard him talking one time, and he said, you got to find, there's 7 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
So you got to find 1,000 that really like you. and that are willing to give you $100, or $75 a year.
Right.
You know, 1,000 people that are willing to give you $75 a year.
Yeah.
And if you look at it like that, it doesn't seem so.
It doesn't seem impossible, right?
Right.
It is. It's still a lot of work because you have to connect. I think that's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And being online, there's a lot of disconnect. Everything is online now. They don't really see you talk. And I think that's a big thing. Is a lot of artists, you have to show up and have a face-to-face talk with a lot of your clientele, I guess.
Right.
And then that's when they get to know who you really are.
Yeah.
So.
And
everything is online, especially me. I'm at home most of the time, so I don't get to have that I don't hang out at comic book stores like
right.
a lot of artists that I know. They hang out there all the time, so
right.
You get that reputation. So
yeah.
You get the street cred. Right now, I'm all online cred. Twitter followers who are probably a lot of them are probably fake.
Right.
You never know. It's one of those things. So so it's a slow process, and you just got to keep at it.
Yeah, and from what I understand, Keith Knight just hustles and hustles and hustles every day. You
have to.
And to keep.
See, that's it. It probably is his full-time thing too. So. Yeah, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, he does it, full time, and he's been doing it. He's built up a fan base of over, for 20 some years.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of hard to compete or not compete with, but you can't just jump in
to get to that level.
Yeah, to get to that level is a lot of work, I imagine.
Yeah. And it all starts with that one short that you're going to do, and then the next one, and then the next one.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, and you just keep going,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what if you run into a creative, get mired in the, where I'm at right now. It's like, oh, I don't know where this is going, and then you get kind of bogged down.
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. It's tough to get out of that slump sometimes, Yeah. So, but I think sometimes you got to embrace that slump. You got to say, all right, I'm not going to get anything done. I might as well do something else for now.
Yeah.
That almost builds the cache of creativity. And then later on, oh, okay, now I'm itching again. I want to do something again,
Yeah. Actually, that's what I've got the 12-page comic idea. That's just like work on that in the background,
right?
Because it's just real easy and real fun to do. So whenever I get stuck on something else, go back to that in the background. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I've actually read somewhere that they're talking about the same thing we're talking about. What if you get into a creative slump? And they said basically the fix for that is to collaborate with other people and share with them your idea. And that kind of applies to me too, because every time I talk about to other people about my projects that I'm working on, that kind of excites me too. I'm like, man, that is kind of exciting,
Yeah.
So, like my ideas are actually kind of cool. Just talking it out loud almost is kind of gets you hyped up.
Yeah, we should. I should talk to you about. What we should do is get Al on and talk to you about our script, because it's kind of like, I don't know. The last one we just whipped it out and it kind of wrote itself.
Mm-hmm,
and now we're struggling with this one, we're having to fight through it. But I think we'll get there. But I
have that exact same feeling. I think I work better when I'm collaborating with somebody. It seems
definitely.
You get to talk your ideas through with that person, and then especially if it's somebody that you respect their opinion.
Yep.
And this person, even if he says my stuff is crappy, then I understand where he's coming from, and I respect what he has to say. Because if you're trying to,
let's give it a try. I want to tell you about my 12-pager. Okay,
right.
So it's this guy. He's looking for like, it's $20.99. So he's looking. Somebody stole something from him. Okay. So he wanders into Rust City to get it back. But he's also like a raging alcoholic, and he's really drunk all the time. So he wanders into a bar, and he orders 3 shots, and he does them, and he wants a 4th, and the bartender says, "Hey, buddy, you've had enough." And he pulls out his gun, puts it on the counter, and says, give me a fourth shot or you're going to get your first, or something like that, So the guy says, hey, listen, you're basically, he says, you're in a, is that gun full of silver bullets? And he's like, what are you trying to say? Are you a vampire? And he says, no, this is not a vampire bar. If this is a vampire bar, you would be a bag of bones by now. We're civilized. We're werewolves. So unless you've got silver bullets, because silver bullets kill werewolves, unless you've got silver bullets in this gun, you might want to pick up your gun, put it back in your pocket, and just mosey on out the door. Anyway, so the guy, he does, and he goes on out, and anyway, and then that's just like the first 3 pages.
Okay.
So anyway, then he goes out, and he's, there's vampires and trolls and all kinds of creatures in this town, but he goes on like a revenge to find this what's been stolen from him.
Okay.
He goes on this killing spree, and he kills all these creatures and bad guys, and he finally comes to the kind of the kingpin, who happened to steal whatever it was that it was stolen from him. He has a homing device, is what's leading to him to this kingpin. Okay. And so it's this little kid, and the little kid stole $50 from him, and he's like, I want my money back.
Yeah.
And the kid was like, well, it's just $50, And he's like, I know, but it's the point of the matter, And so the kid gives him $50, and he's like, you're lucky I can't kill a kid. So have a good one, buddy. And he takes off. That's it.
That's the story.
Yeah.
That would be a Rust City story right there.
Yeah.
So most of it is like a killing spree.
Yeah, just killing, werewolves and vampires.
Action.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Just blood and guts. And
that would be funny if the kid was actually a vampire.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There could be like a twist at the end like that or something. So,
yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of what...
Yeah.
That's my idea.
I think that would be cool.
All right.
Yeah. That would be... Well, that would be a Rust City type of story, and you're working with 12 pages,
Yeah.
So, unless you want to do it longer.
Did you know that Rust City was actually inspired by this town, Flint? Have you heard of Flint, Michigan?
No, I have not.
Okay, I used to live...
Is it still there?
Yeah. It's a town, and it used to be like a huge town of about either 100,000 or 200,000 population.
Yeah.
And now it's less than 40, I think.
Wow.
It was a GM town.
Okay.
They used to build Buicks there. Buick City was there.
Yeah.
Back in the 50s, 60s. By the 70s, it started declining. And now they took their water supply they used to get from Detroit, which actually has clean water, and they started getting it from the Flint River. And they poisoned all of the kids in the city.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. So
wow.
Anyway, it's really rough there, and so this, that was a terrible thing, but it was kind of like I was thinking, after 100 years of getting poisoned, the people that live there are going to be turned into like monsters, creatures and things like that. But not to make light of what happened there, because I know people that live there and it's terrible. But it just got me
depressing.
Oh, I know, man. The city is just, man, it looks like a war zone. It's
Does it really?
Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of where that idea came from. So.
I'll have to look that up. It sounds like a really interesting backstory to that town,
Yeah, it's the decline of it's classic Rust Belt
right
decline. It makes Detroit like Detroit has a bad reputation of being crime central. But Flint is right there with it. So it's about an hour north of Detroit.
So it's barely anybody living there now.
Yeah, so like if there's a block with 10 houses on it, there might be 2 of them that are occupied and the rest of them are abandoned. But and they're just run down and deteriorated, but they can't afford to knock them down. And then the city services now, they still need to provide the city services to those 2 houses.
Yeah. I thought they were cutting those out. Aren't they doing that now?
Yeah.
And a lot of,
Yeah. So anyway, Rust, crazy. That's kind of the idea behind Rust City.
Yeah.
It's just this declining city. So makes for good stories.
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, that reminds me now that you're talking about that. So your main character, when he goes into the town, does he do the killing before he gets to the kingpin?
Yeah.
Or actually, what would even probably be funnier, I don't know if it would be, but at least in my head, it would be, is if if we know that he's after the $50 before he starts the killing.
Okay.
Just because then, you're like, why is he going through all of this for the $50?
Yeah, right.
I mean, you could make it so that the kid, since he is the kingpin, all those guys that he ends up killing are like the kid's like underlings almost. Yeah,
that was the idea. Somehow I got to convey that.
Right. But for some reason, why are they, subservient to this kid? You got to think about.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, you could go crazy. You could go crazy with the characters. Like, you could make it so that the kid is like one of those kids that he has like a crown and like a cape or something. Like he's and he has a throne.
Yeah.
And then he would be like, kick this guy's ass or something.
Yeah.
And then he's surrounded by all these monsters.
Right. Yeah, he could be like the like the Game of Thrones kid.
Yeah, it reminds me actually of like I don't know if you've seen Akira.
No.
One of the Japanese animes. One of the characters is kind of like that, where he ends up being like, like the king almost or something. So.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't think it's too unrealistic because, people don't really know who even like in corporate America, you don't really know who you're serving, who you're doing.
The boss.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to know who it is, You're just doing your job, trying to get paid. And it could be some nutty kid, who swiped $50 from this maniac.
Right.
It could be a good story.
Yeah.
It'd just be fun doing the artwork,
Yeah, I think so. I think the action scene, it's almost like, man, can you pack all that action in 12 pages?
Yeah, maybe I'll have to do like a long weekend like you do, make it 20. How do you, so American Bison, what's that about?
So American Bison, it's my buddy Steve Benton. He came up with the character a few years back, and I was talking to him about it, and I told him like, man, you need to go on with this character because it's a cool concept where this is basically Civil War era.
Okay.
Bison that kind of, I don't even know the original origin of the character, but basically he's half bison, half man.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And he ends up working as a soldier for the North.
Oh, all right.
So and there's Indians in the storyline. So it starts off with him. There's like a loose, crazed bison that starts killing people throughout the East, and then they're trying to figure out who is this guy. But fast forward, he ends up being one of the soldiers for the North kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then there's a backstory where he goes to Japan and learns samurai and all this stuff.
Oh, nice.
So it's actually, I was telling him, like, man, you need to start, pumping out stories for this because there's so many possibilities for this character.
Yeah.
So, he's working on issue number 2, but I told him, like, hey, I can do a story for this character. I already have an idea. I can do it, real fast. So that same night when I told him I had an idea, I scripted the entire thing out, sent it to him. And then the next day, he basically said, "Yeah, go for it." So I just started drawing it,
Oh, wow.
So it ends up, I did one script, which is 10 pages, and the cover, and then his buddy, co-writer, did a story, and then I illustrated it. So it's 2 short stories, basically.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. And the style is, kind of like has a Hellboy feel to it.
Yeah, I saw the artwork on Facebook.
Yeah.
And
I've been fascinated with that style for a long time. So just doing it with, his character was pretty cool.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of black, a lot of shadows, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I need to learn how to do that.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's almost like when you're looking at it, how do I say it? It's like there's a lot of things that's not shown, that's just black, but it leaves it to your imagination almost, It's like using the least amount of lines to create the same illusion,
Yeah.
or even more sometimes, because your imagination is sometimes more powerful than what you can see on the page.
No, right.
So leaving it out, it's almost like you build the world in your head,
Yeah, because that's what you do when you read, prose.
Right.
Wow, that's cool. But there's an art to that too,
Oh yeah, Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy, he's like up there, and I'm like just starting at the bottom. So I'm still learning, and there's so much to learn. But it's a fun style to mess around with, and they really like it, so that's pretty cool. And I think they're sending it out for some reviews now.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully you get some good reviews from it. So.
Yeah, man. It seems like it just seems like well, there are people like you and I now that are like following through on stuff. It's not just web comics. We're actually publishing,
Yeah.
And it seems like, man, there needs to be an outlet for that.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Caliber Comics?
They sound familiar. Yeah.
Publisher out of Michigan.
Yeah. There's actually quite a few over at Michigan. It seems like.
Yeah.
A lot of these publishers that I've been hearing of, they're like based in Michigan. So.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
This one guy was saying that Michigan is kind of like to comics what Seattle was to grunge music back in the 90s,
Yeah. That's crazy. I'm surprised you haven't hooked up with a lot of comic book collectives over there on your side, because it seems to be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if, like, for example, like your short that you're working on, if they're working on some kind of an anthology, then they can incorporate your short into their book.
Right.
That's like another way of getting it out there.
Yeah.
As part of this bigger project. And I think that's maybe one direction that a lot of artists are doing now, because they'll only do a 10-page, 12-page, which is not enough to sell as a full comic.
Right.
So let's put it all together, and now we have a graphic novel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of avenues to go, but
yeah, and like in children's picture book, I just heard that there's supposed to be a resurgence. They're calling it the golden age of children's, picture books. It's like a resurgence happening now. A lot of publishers are, they said that print is dead, but apparently it's not, because a lot of publishers are picking up a lot of books and publishing a lot of them, a lot of new ones.
Huh.
So, yeah.
It seems like, too, that there's not that much. It's just there's not enough. You can't make a living at it, though. The artists. It's so tough. I guess it's so competitive.
Yeah, it is competitive, but I think you just gotta put out actual books out there.
Yeah.
Like the book that I did, the first picture book, a box story.
Yeah.
I have that on Amazon, and I haven't really been doing any promotion or anything like that, but I'll get a check from Amazon, every month from it.
Oh, really?
So, like maybe I'll get a couple $100 or so, something like that, from a book that I did a while back, and then hey, it's there. So in my mind, if I'm getting X amount of money, hey, I just need to do this 10 more times.
Yeah, I know, right? And not only that, is if you do it, if you only have one out there, people like it enough. When you have 10 out there, they're more likely to buy that one, because then they can
buy. You get
buy.
that following over time, and and I look at, like, for example, one of the artists that I really like, Edward Gorey, right? Which I based on the Stumps of Flat Top Hill. That style is similar to his. He has over 100 books that he's put out during his lifetime.
Wow.
So when I look at a guy like that, I'm like, man, I'm really slacking. If he was able to put out 100 books, I need to, put the same amount.
Step it up, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you compare yourself, you're like, oh man. And these guys, this was during the time where there's no social media. There's, how are these guys doing it? You know?
I don't even know.
So it's almost like there's no excuse for me not to be doing that same amount of work.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, except that I have a day job. That's
that's really those little ones will put a cramp in your style, won't they?
So it's just like the photographer that when I was doing photography, I was looking up to this photographer, Gary Winogrand. When he died, he had about 10,000 rolls of film that was undeveloped.
Wow.
That's how much photography, so many pictures he was taking. So like when I look at that kind of stuff, I'm like, I'm lazy. I'm not doing anything. This guy died and he had 10,000 rolls of film that wasn't even developed yet.
Wow.
This guy died and he had 100 books that he finished.
Yeah. Well, you're doing pretty well. You're not lazy, man. You're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we can only do what we have. What we can with our time. So
yeah.
So it's just some people will look at that and it'll demotivate them. Be like, oh man, I can't, like blah blah blah. Yeah. That stuff motivates me.
Cool.
That stuff like keeps me pumped up. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like when I'm working on, like for example, you and I, like we're drawing on the computer, like, drawing on tablets now. Everything is digital. And then I look at the Japanese artists who make comic books. They put out 20 pages, or more every week.
I know.
They're getting, 6 hours, 10 hours sleep a week or something crazy like that, I'm just like, okay, I'm really slacking because these guys, they're working in a, 5x5 room with 3 other people making comics and pumping it out every week without any sleep. They're living on coffee. And I have like all my toys, my computer, my, like my tablets to draw on and things like that. And these guys are using ink and pen,
Yeah.
So it's like, we've got it made pretty much is what I'm trying to say, There's no reason for us not to be exceeding that level. So that's just at least how I look at it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I do get discouraged sometimes, looking at stuff and just being like, oh man, I'll never get to that level, I get that sometimes, but most of the time I get, like talking to you is like, oh yeah, man, I can do it, because you're doing stuff, every day it seems like, and so I can do it, and so it gets you inspired. So
I said this quote right here probably fits this perfectly. This guy Steve Furtick, he said, the reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. Right?
Yeah.
It's like a psychological thing.
Yep.
So, and I think we all do that. So
yeah, man. That's one of the big things that Steven Silver, the guy that I'm going to do the one-on-one with, is one of his big things is, it's just your self-talk. It's just like be positive.
Yeah.
Always try to learn and always try to be better, and just don't have self-doubt, and
you got to be your number one cheerleader, basically. You know?
So get up every day and do your thing. So,
I mean, you motivated me when we were originally, first in touch, because we're talking about it online, and you're like, I'd wake up at 4:00 and work on stuff, and that kind of stuff pumped me up. And I was looking at you and I'm like, man, I'm slacking. I need to start getting up at 4.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, the positive energy kind of like bounces off and, feeds off of everybody else's. So
I heard Steve Harvey. You know who Steve Harvey is?
Yeah.
He's famous lately for screwing up some pageant or something. I don't even know what that's about, actually, but I saw this thing where he said, if you're not a morning person, it might be because you want to wake up because you don't know what you're waking up for. You know, if you know what if your life's got a purpose and you know what you're waking up for, you want to get up and you want to get it started. You know, if you got a plan, you want to get going and you'll wake up no problem. But if you don't, then you don't know what you're waking up for, then
that's true.
And so and then he said, you know, ever since I was 10 years old, I wanted to be on TV. I didn't get on TV until I was 38. But now I'm on TV every day.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know,
awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I heard another story. My father-in-law told me a story just this weekend about a kid that he knows, so, you know, a friend of a friend or freshman. He went to some small college and tried out for the football team as a freshman. Mm-hmm. And they said, you know, you can play, but you're going to be like fourth or fifth string. But he wanted to go to this small college because they were like Division III national champions. You know, so he wanted to play on a winning team.
Right.
So they said, you know, you might as well just, you know, you can play, you can be on the team, but you're just going to be on the team, you know.
Yeah.
That was his freshman year. Now it was his senior year. He just, they won the national championship, and he had just shy of 2,000 yards rushing.
Wow.
So he was their star running back his senior year.
That's awesome.
No scholarship, you know, just a walk-on.
Yeah.
But a kid that just stuck with it, you know.
He wanted to be in that team and wanted to win,
Yeah, so those kind of stories are great, you know. It's like, you know, you can do it.
Right.
But then sometimes you get up and you go, all right, today's going to be a great day. And then you get to work. And you go,
oh. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine. He had the same thing, you know, like he pumped up every morning and then he would drive to work. And then when he would get to work, park his car, and he'd just sit there in his car. He's kind of like scared to go in because he, you know, like.
Yeah, it's because it's going to suck the life out of him.
Yeah, it sucks the energy out, and you just feel down like, what am I going to face today? And, you know.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's, you know, that's life, I guess.
Yeah. But you can find a good purpose at work, too, you know. I mean.
Yeah. I think that's why we do this kind of thing, too, is, you know, this is where we find our energy.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's where we gravitate to because that's our creative output, so.
Yeah. Good, man. Yep. All right. I'm going to wrap it up.
Sounds good.
Thanks for coming on, Ken. It's good talking to you.
Oh, yeah. We should do this more often, man.
Yeah.
I mean, just let me know.
When, so you're going to start doing blog posts, right? Rabble
Yeah.
Boy?
Yep,
Rabble Boy?
I updated my website, rabbleboy.com. So it's a new, fresh-looking website now. And I'm going to start posting more stuff, and I'm going to start doing more book reviews because, you know, I get a lot of books coming in here, and I need to start, like, doing something with it, taking pictures. I used to do that a while back with art books, actually.
Yeah.
Took a lot of pictures, kind of write a little bit of snippet and talk about it a little bit. So I'm going to start doing that again and even posting it on Amazon, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just a book hoarder.
Books are awesome. I love books.
Yeah, that was one of my dreams when I was a kid, was to have a library. It's like, I'm going to have a library when I get old, so.
You're doing pretty well back there, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to move that stuff, let me tell you. Boxes and boxes. Like, that makes you regret, like, man, why did I get all this stuff? You know? Yeah.
All right, man. Check it out.